So you probably saw a couple months back when Asus ROG launched their Azoth Extreme keyboard with an eye-watering price point of $499. Today I've got their Harpe Ace Extreme mouse, which we'll be primarily looking at in this video, and it has an equally breathtaking price point of $249. But I don't think they sacrificed a single detail or a single feature, and despite that, it comes in at a surprisingly low weight with a very solid build quality. Alright, look, initially I didn't really even want to make this video because price points like these have a tendency to elicit some pretty negative reactions from viewers, and that's understandable. So Asus asked if they could sponsor me to do this. I agreed on the following terms. They didn't get to tell me what to say, they didn't get to tell me what I could not say, and they didn't get to see any portion of this video or even hear any of my impressions about the product prior to this launching. So for transparency, I have to say that this video is sponsored, but really they're paying me for my production time, not my opinion, so do with that info what you will. So these extreme versions are exactly what the name implies. Extreme build versions of the Azoth keyboard and Harpe Ace mouse that we've looked at previously. The materials used, the attention to detail, the level of the included tech, and the piles of included accessories are all what you'd expect to see at a price point like this, along with a couple of the best unboxing experiences I've ever seen. On the Harpe Ace Extreme, the outer package just kind of falls away to reveal this clamshell box that presents the mouse upright, which looks really sick. Inside, you get a hard shell travel case that again is really sick. It's got a bump out for the mouse itself, and the rest of it is very slim. It's got the mouse name on the front, and mine came with my channel name on the rear. Inside, you get your cable. It's braided, it's very thin, it does play and charge, and you get a 1000 Hz standard dongle, which is an Omni receiver. That means you can connect your keyboard and your mouse to a single receiver to save a port. Just be aware you're going to be running at 1000 Hz max on both peripherals when you use it like that. There's a range extender with a little clip so you can position it wherever you want, and the 8K polling booster for 8K in both wireless and wired mode, which we don't see a lot. I did confirm this is functioning on both modes on the newest firmware release. The 8K booster will be available separately as well, and it will add 8K to a list of some of their latest mice and keyboards. Back inside the clamshell, the cardboard display stand is removable, so you can use this to display both your mouse and your travel case if you want. Also included are an extra set of PTFE feet, some Corning Gorilla Glass feet, a couple of alcohol wipes, a polished cloth, some stickers, and some grips. Yours will probably not say BadSeed tech on them. The mouse itself looks gorgeous. This is real carbon fiber on the top shell and the triggers. Like a lot of mice with exotic materials, the lower section is bio-based nylon to ensure the wireless doesn't have any issues. It's a really sharp look. There's a depth to the carbon fiber that makes the logo look like it's floating on the surface. It's tough to capture on camera, but it looks amazing in person. Size and shape-wise, it's almost identical to the Harpe Ace that we looked at before. It's just like a millimeter shorter, so it's still what I would class as a medium frame mouse, and it's a claw grip for me. It's 127 millimeters long, 63.7 at the rear flare, 57.7 at the grip, with a height of 39.6. The side buttons are different this time around. They're smaller overall and closer together. These feel and sound really good to me. The rear feet are also different. They've moved to a larger single-piece rear skate, and we don't have the dongle storage on the mouse body this time around. It's in the case instead. Scroll wheel feels very similar, grippy, decent tactility on the scroll, and easy to depress. Shockingly, it does keep the RGB, and they did opt to leave in the Bluetooth compatibility. That's crazy because we almost always see those two things specifically stripped out when brands are trying to hit a lighter weight. And speaking of weight, the older Harpe Ace came in at 54 grams. Already pretty impressive. The Extreme comes in at 48 grams with the PTFE feet, so it's not the lightest on the market, but it's still very light, and it does that with no holes and a build quality that feels top tier while retaining RGB in the scroll wheel and Bluetooth. This is all extremely impressive to me from an engineering standpoint. The internals are no slouch either. The sensor here is their ROG Aimpoint Pro optical sensor. This has their track on glass tech too, and every one of the Extreme mice is calibrated at the factory to make sure the sensor tracks within less than 1% deviation. The switches are their ROG opticals. These don't have any debounce delay, and they're bent to ensure that there's less than 5 gram force deviation on the clicks between switches, so they should all feel super consistent. These are heavier than the switches in the original Harpe Ace, so I don't find that they're quite as spammable. It's obvious that they're opticals, but these sound and feel better than most. There's a couple different ways to control all the functions and features on this mouse, and the first one is a major step for people that may have avoided ROG peripherals in the past because they didn't want to deal with Armory Crate. This time around they're launching Armory Crate Gear, and it's not just a light version. This is peripheral specific, so you can get access to what you need for your specific device without loading your system with a lot of stuff that you might not need. In here you can remap buttons, adjust your DPI, polling rate, lift-off distance, everything you'd expect to see, and you can save it to one of 5 profiles on the mouse. So no feature here requires that you keep this open full time. time. You just open it, do what you need to do, flash the mouse, and close it. If you're a hardware-only purist, they've got you covered there too. DPI, polling rate, lift-off distance, and profile swap can all be accomplished on the mouse itself without the use of any software. For battery life on Bluetooth, you get 98 hours without RGB and 67 hours with. At 2.4 gigahertz, 1000 polling, you get 70 hours without RGB and 53 hours with. Like every high polling rate mouse, the higher you go in polling rate, the harder it eats your battery life. Running this thing full-time 8K with RGB on, I've been averaging about 8 hours in between charges. In-game, unsurprisingly, it feels really good. I appreciate the lighter weight, but more than that, I appreciate the build quality, because even if I find myself death gripping this thing, the carbon fiber shell easily handles it. As for latency at 8K, I was very tempted to put this on the XLAT, but not enough to destroy my copy to do it. I have measured a major competitor's 8K prior to this, and what I found was moving off 1000 hertz polling will gain you about half a millisecond, but going higher than 2K results in like a 0.09 to 0.1 millisecond improvement every time you take a step. And for that, you're giving up loads of battery life and potentially some FPS if you're not running on a top-tier CPU. I run a really fast machine and an ultra-high refresh rate monitor, and I still wouldn't consider 8K to be the selling point here, but I've had people swear up and down that they can feel the difference that 0.1 milliseconds of latency makes. So if you also have brain damage, just know that 8K is here and it works flawlessly. I like what they did here. It's a true flagship in that they didn't compromise on any aspect, and somehow it still comes in cheaper and 1 gram lighter than the Razer Viper Mini Signature Edition. It's a marvel of engineering, and I'm a sucker for that. Obviously, I've got the Azoth Extreme keyboard in the building, and TLDR, it looks and sounds amazing, and it should for its price point. To really do it justice, it needs a full-length, proper review, but it has been out for a while already. If you're really interested and you want to see my take in a full video, just let me know in the comments and I'll get it on the calendar. So the Extreme line feels like when you go to a car show and see a concept, just a showpiece that acts as a flex for the brand, except they decided to mass produce this and you can just casually buy it on Amazon. That's wild to me. Really, the lighter weight and higher polling could make a minute improvement to your gameplay. But minute is the key word there. I primarily see this as a flex for people that are fans of ROG and are looking for that showpiece. The beauty part is that you're not sacrificing any functionality to get that weight and that look. The only thing compromised here will be your bank account. Ugh, so bad.